Bim says, I'm so obsessed to talk about Mighty Nine. It's actually disturbing and alarming. I have so many theories, man. What's up, Bim? Thanks for joining me. I have multiple screens up to make sure that this stream goes off without a hitch. I've been tinkering around with this for a little bit, trying to figure out how to control my desktop volume with my Rodecaster Duo. And I followed instructions about it before, and it worked. But now I have to control my audio, my desktop audio through OBS instead of my Rodecaster, which is going to be a pain because that means the volume that you guys hear from my desktop, so music, videos, whatever, is going to be different from what I'm actually hearing. And so I need your help to make sure that the audio is not going crazy and that you can hear everything pretty well. Right now it should just be some background music, so just lightly in the background as I'm talking. But yeah, I am also excited to get into theories, thoughts, critiques, praise, all that stuff for season 1. Just generally speaking, there was a lot that they kind of switched up on us from the campaign, but I think overall the season was very good. And I mean, if you watched my reaction today, you could see how much I was freaking out during the finale. So it's been a lot of fun. But Bim, you're new to the channel, right? So it's good to have you. Appreciate you being here with me. If anybody else is out there in the chat, don't be afraid to say hello. And yeah, we're just going to hang out on a Friday and have a good time. I have my traditional, I've got my mead in my Is It Thursday Yet tankard. And then just for backup, I just got a little bit of caffeine in my Bower Bar koozie that I had signed by Marisha at C2E2 in Chicago. First of all, what is up with Caleb being in the outside of the door that Knot was trying to open from the inside? It was so strange they were not together. Well, Knot had to unlock the door to let Caleb in because Aedwolf had locked the door. I think the way that they portrayed that scene was just to give us a little bit more tension. You know, because they cut away from Aedwolf when he started to walk away, but then heard something. So they wanted to keep you on your toes, whether or not, you know, Aedwolf was going to walk back and catch Knot, or if she was going to get away with it. But yeah, so I think that it was just part of the plan. Knot had to climb in from the outside and let Caleb in through the door. So I think that's why they were not together at that time. Found your channel while obsessing over Mighty Nine. Thank you so much. Yeah, so if you're new to the channel, Bim, yeah, obviously I have all the reactions to season 1 of the Mighty Nine up on the channel, but I also have reactions to all of season 1, 2, and 3 of The Legend of Vox Machina also on the channel. So if you are craving more content from Critical Role while we are waiting for season 2 of the Mighty Nine, definitely check those reactions out. Why she couldn't go with him. I don't know. I think the structure of that whole not scene, but like, you know, there was the fake Caleb that was distracting Trent. There was a lot of like misdirection going on in that scene, and I think it was just the creators trying to increase the tension of the moment. Season 4 of Vox Machina is not out yet. Or no, wait. Is it season 4? Basically, I have reactions. I'm going to go through. I have reactions to all of the seasons of Vox Machina that are out right now. I know that they got picked up for season 5. Does that mean... let's see. Season 4 is not out yet. So I have seasons 1 through 3 reactions up. Unless I just didn't put them in my playlist. I'm kind of all over the place right now. Yeah, just through the season 3 finale. But they did say that we are getting a season 5. Season 4 is going to be coming out, yes, March of next year. And I will have reactions to that. So me and my buddy Jason have been reacting to Vox Machina. I'll take any chance that I get to introduce friends to Critical Role. So his introduction to Critical Role was Legend of Vox Machina. I'd already seen seasons 1 and 2 when we watched them for the channel. And so I got him to watch them with me so we could film reactions for them before season 3 came out. And then we also reacted to season 3. So yeah, 1 through 3 is on the channel now. And then when season 4 comes out in 2026, we will be reacting to that as well. Yeah, I think it was just a way to build up tension. But yeah, definitely wanted to make not pass through water so that you can see some type of character development there. But obviously, like those types of things are also alluding to things that are going to happen in later seasons as well, with as far as not in the water, that sort of thing. So have you seen all of campaign 2, Bem, or do you just know about the Mighty Nine from the animated series? Seen the entire campaign. Awesome. Yeah, so I've seen basically every campaign from Critical Role. I'm a few episodes behind on campaign 4 right now, but I'll get caught up eventually. But I've seen all of 1, 2, and 3. And some of the side stuff. Sorry, grammar mistakes. I'm Brazilian. No worries. Appreciate you speaking in English so I can understand you. Unfortunately, uh, I don't really speak any other language besides English. I have studied German a little bit, but I wouldn't say I'm fluent. So Ben, what did you think about some of the changes that they made to season 1 of the Mighty Nine? Personally, I was during the season I was kind of struggling to comprehend, like, you know, I was coming to terms with what was different from the campaign while also like accepting what was happening in the series as it came to me. I want to know any of your theories if Lorenzo will appear. Yeah, I was kind of thinking about that as well, just because, it was the whole difference with Yasha for this season was they didn't want to keep writing her in and out of the story. They didn't, because that really wouldn't make sense to keep writing her in and out. So they just thought, okay, well, we'll have her in the story, but we'll keep her separate from the group until she meets up with them with the beacon. And so obviously they handled that differently than they did in the campaign. And I think, with Ashley, it was different though, because she was gone because, she was filming Blind Spot in New York at the time. And so they kind of just made up whatever reason for her to leave. I think with the whole Lorenzo storyline, it would actually make sense to keep it in the series. And then they can give us kind of like, they love to do this during The Legend of Vox Machina, where they would split the groups up and then, they would kind of shift perspective throughout the episodes with being with one group while being with another group and that sort of thing. And so I think it makes sense to bring Lorenzo in, still have the kidnapping happen, and then you can kind of show perspective from, what the group is doing while Ford and Jester are away. And then you can also have a perspective of Ford and Jester while they are kind of trying to escape or whatever. And then I think that they can still have it to where they keep all the characters in the show while also keeping that storyline in. Yeah, so I think there's a lot of potential there for stories. So I think Lorenzo will appear. If you're watching and you haven't said hey, make sure you drop a hello in the chat. I want to hear from you guys what your favorite moments are from the first season of the Mighty Nine and any thoughts that you might have about some of the changes that were made. We're just here on a Friday night hanging out, chilling, chatting. Bim says, I found it all very cohesive. The great problem, it's the Molly bond with Yasha. But they build Molly's character like a life coach that you don't want to punch. So I see them hitting off next season. Yeah, I think, one of the things that I said about Molly during my reactions was in the campaign, Molly wasn't really my favorite character. but I think that they've done a great job in the series building him up a lot more, and I think that he's been a very enjoyable character in the first season. And so, I don't want to get into. I mean, we're talking spoilers about the series. I don't know how much we want to get into about spoilers for the campaign for people who, might watch this who haven't, who like doesn't necessarily know what happens in the campaign. But, for the things that are coming down the road, I think they've done a good job setting up the character in such a way where there's going to be a lot of emotions for sure. What's up, Purple? How you doing tonight? I also think the kidnap will happen and the guest character will be there too, that dwarf that Ashley played. Yeah, what's interesting is I thought Keg, the scene where Bo is making out with that like buff chick in the alleyway, I forgot that Keg was a dwarf, so I'm just like, is that Keg? But obviously they walked away. They could keep Keg as a dwarf or they could make it that character. Not really sure. Welcome to the stream, Purple. We're just talking about season 1 of the Mighty Nine, our favorite moments, how we liked the changes from the campaign, those sorts of things. So sound off in the chat. I've got my drinks here. I told Bam I got my mead and my Is It Thursday Yet tankard, and I got a little bit of caffeine here as well to keep me going this Friday night. I love the building of the Empire kids. Yeah, they've done a really good job of starting Bo and Caleb off in a place where they're very they're very antagonistic and not really trusting of each other. But then when they go to get the compass, they finally start getting these moments of like, okay, like they're kind of forced to trust each other. And so, yeah, I think that relationship is going to keep building and eventually get to, where we know of them, which is like a very strong bond that they have with each other. So, yeah, I think they're handling that really well as well. Something that we could do tonight, if you guys are interested, just gauging interest at this point, we could watch some table to screen moments for the Mighty Nine. Although, like, I've already seen all of the Mighty Nine, so maybe we could save that for a stream if Jason joins me. The two of them are mirrors in their speciality. Have to hit the books and study hard. Yeah, the other thing that, because I post reactions to the show, but I also watch other people's reactions to the show. And one of the things that somebody said that I thought was an interesting comment was, Ford said, why do the all the Volstrucker like wear the same like clothes or whatever, and Bo was like, oh, it's a cult thing, like it's like a branding thing for a cult, and somebody made the comment of like, oh, you mean like the Cobalt Soul, and I'm just like, oh yeah, they all wear blue. So it's like if you're saying that the Volstruckers are a cult because they're all wearing the same thing, then one could make that same comment about the Cobalt Soul. Bim says the jaded vibe that Caleb and Bo have is very bonding. They were both misguided by someone, twisted, fucked up mindset. Yeah. Obviously, I think Caleb's situation was much worse than Bo's. But yeah, Bo is kind of jaded because like nobody's ever really believed in her, and Caleb is jaded because he was obviously tortured. What's up, Carrie? You haven't missed much. Just kind of getting into the conversation here. Same as last time, I've got my meat, I've got my caffeine, and I'm ready to go. Bim says Cobalt Soul is a cult. Yes, I would say that it is. Do I want to talk about religion on this show? Didn't really plan on it, but I'm sure you can put those pieces together. Cobalt Soul does follow the deity of the knowing mistress. I mean, I think that in D&D or in these worlds, like the gods are real. You can actually, there's proof. They show up, they do things. So it's kind of hard to say that it's a cult when the thing that they're worshiping is proven to be true. But the whole thing with a cult is like there's a leader that is like followed without question. But I feel like the Cobalt Soul, though, I mean, they do question power, and I think in the campaign they kind of talked about it more than they've talked about it in the series so far, which is like, Bo was always against power structures, and that also meant the power structure of the Cobalt Soul, not just the power structure of the Volstruckers or the Empire as a whole, which is where she kind of gets her attitude from. Looks like we got some more people joining. Everybody who has joined, say hello in the chat. Welcome in. Just getting into some spoilers for season 1 of the Mighty Nein. Hanging out, chatting, have a good time. So I just want to hear from you guys if you had any favorite moments from the first season, what you guys thought about the changes that they've made from the campaign to the series so far. I think there's a lot of interesting things that are happening there. And I'll just take this moment to pat my own back. I made some guesses, some predictions as to how the final episode was going to go, and I was pretty proud of myself that I was kind of spot on with my predictions as far as how things were going to work. The wizard battle was amazing. Yes, I agree. I even said in my reaction that the only thing that I kind of missed was seeing like the spire kind of start to fall, and then it gets like caught by Trent and like held in place. Seeing that in the series would have been cool. Someone mentioned that it might happen in the first episode of season 2, because technically it happened when the group got out of the, I think, did it happen when the group got out of the sewers with the beacon? They looked back and they saw the spire like collapsing. If that's the case, like that would be pretty cool to start off the first episode of season 2. But I think it was really interesting to see that Essek was involved in that battle. I don't know if that was ever explicitly said in the campaign, but yeah, seeing Essek and Trent go toe to toe with their different types of magic was really cool. Like Essek, I feel like had Trent on the ropes and really had him beaten if he had actually like focused on the battle. Because I feel like Essek was more focused on getting the beacon and getting out of there rather than like finishing Trent off. So I think, it showed Essex's power level, which actually leads me to another topic that I wanted to discuss, because I felt like in some of my early reactions, I was kind of down on how they were portraying Essek, and they kind of like gave him this like gullible innocence to him when, when we see Essek in the campaign, he's more of like this calculating guy who's made some bad choices, who, has to deal with those choices, and the group accepts him, those sorts of things. But I never really felt like he was doing any like bad guy stuff until the end of, was it episode 7, where he basically portrays Virat and turns him into the Bright Queen to save his own ass. And yeah, that was the moment where I'm just like, okay, here we go. This is the Essek that, that the story needs to then have an arc for that character. And I think there was a little bit of, like, maybe they were afraid to have him be too bad too quickly, because you needed some sort of redeeming quality to the character so that people would want him to be, or like hope for him to be redeemed, or to have that moment where he betrays Virat like mean as much. And so, yeah, I think they did a really good job with that in episode 7. And then obviously in episode 8, when he's fighting with Trent, was just showing that he has very strong abilities. And so that was also great to see. Hot boy looking all muscly in the Kryn armor. Yes, definitely. Which, that Kryn armor, by the way, looked incredible. It kind of gave me like Predator vibes. Definitely like felt like very like sci-fi. Just great. And it's like, even like the small details of like when Not first went into the sewer, you could hear the sound from their armor in the sewer, which, basically told us before it happened that they were going to run into the Kryn down there. Because if you remember from the campaign, Matt always described their armor as putting off this kind of sound that was meant to intimidate or sound creepy, as part of like a scare tactic in battles and wars and stuff like that. So yeah, getting that bit of detail in the series was really cool as well. Bim says, I think Essek betrayed Virat for revenge. Like, he blamed him for having to be the one to kill his mother. That was his fault, but he can't accept that. But the path to redemption will show him. Yeah, I think... I'm trying to think what Essek knows. I mean, obviously, Essek having to kill his mom creates a different layer of like anger towards the dynasty in general. But obviously there is a sense of like Virat pushing Essek to tell the Bright Queen, so kind of forcing his hand in a way. It was important that they established that Virat and Essek had a friendship, and that Essek, even though his mother was dead, he was still willing to sacrifice his friend to save himself. And so, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they continue to develop Essek's character. What do you think will happen now that he is in Trent's custody? I think Trent is going to blackmail, manipulate, to help Trent. The beacon is now, essentially it's with the Mighty Nein. It's in the wind. So the Mighty Nein is going to keep it from the Empire. In the campaign, there was multiple beacons, so perhaps Trent and Essex, worked together to find a second beacon, and they continue their work that way. Because I heard, I think it was in the last live stream, somebody brought up the fact that they were concerned that there wasn't going to be a storyline with Yeza working for the Empire, and therefore like it making it difficult to bring that storyline in for naught. And I think that it would make sense for them to continue, like to keep that storyline. And so the only way that they can keep that storyline at this point is if they find another beacon. And so I think Trent is going to blackmail and manipulate Essex to to help him with finding another beacon. I don't think that he was just saving himself. When his mother said return the beacon, in his head it was all Virat's fault. I don't know that that's necessarily the case. Virat had nothing to do with the beacon going to the Empire. That was all Essex. So I think that move was just Essex being self-preserving, and feeling like he might have felt that it was Virat's fault that he had to kill his mom because Virat forced his hand into telling the Bright Queen. But I think that's as far as that goes. Purple, you also have this sweater. Yeah, I have all three Christmas sweaters, and I wish that they would put out more. Even though, eventually I have too many, I can't wear them all. There's only so many days I can wear these, and I have more sweaters than I have days to wear them. So, but I wore one for my reaction to the finale, and then I'm wearing this one tonight to celebrate. So yes, they are very cozy and warm. And I have, studio lights on me right now, and I'm wearing this. And so it's a little warm. I don't think I'm sweating quite yet. So we'll see as we go on with the night. I think one shout out that I want to give about this season was that the magic was incredible. Like obviously they're doing things that like slightly different. Like obviously with Caleb and with oh man, her name's escaping me. With Astrid and Caleb, they both cast Featherfall, but they didn't use a feather. They used a leaf instead to obviously like legally be legally distinctive, so they're not getting like there's no copyright issues with Wizard of the Coast. But like the use of components in this show is really interesting. There's even that moment where Trent forced Adolf to become like a giant crow or a giant bird, and I was just like, oh wait, what spell was that? And it's like, oh, obviously he's casting polymorph, because you can cast polymorph on a different creature or on a different person. So I think that they've been doing a really good job of displaying the magic, and obviously, like as we already talked about, the fight between Essex and Trent was just so good. The Dunamantic magic in this show looks incredible. Like the whole like black hole, like that was mind blowing to see that. Essex saw Caleb and Not in the tower, so he'll probably be the one to point them out. To the queen, skipping the L guy from Bassaris. I'm fuzzy on who you're referring to as the L guy, but yeah, I think they'll definitely recognize them. when and if they go to the dynasty. Like obviously we're assuming that things are going to work out similarly. So yeah, I mean, that moment has to happen. That's like one of the biggest moments of the campaign, right? At the very least, in the first half of the campaign, that's got to be the biggest moment. So I'm excited to get to that part of the campaign where we just see a lot more of the dynasty. Uh, Obviously, we've seen just a brief glimpse of it in the first season, but we gotta have the Jor house, right? Can't wait to see that. I think that moment will be in season 3, most likely. Ben, I agree. I think season 2 would be, well, they could do it. I guess they could do it season finale of season 2, maybe. Although that does feel a little early. It depends on how much story they want to, how they structure the story in season 2. The guy they fought outside the tunnel and teleported with them from Bassaris to Rasana. Spelling ick. Yeah, you know what? I think I might rewatch Campaign 2. If I'm being honest. It's been a while since I've watched it. It's been a while. It's been a while since I watched Campaign 2. And so I'm a little fuzzy on the details. I haven't watched Campaign 2 as much as I've watched Campaign 1. I've seen Campaign 1 like 3 times. So I'm a Campaign 1 guy. Campaign 1 is my favorite. Obviously, I like Campaign 2 and Campaign 3. But Campaign 1's my favorite. I miss Jester looking for her father too. Yeah, I mean, that storyline could still make its way. Making my way. That could be something that she's going through in season 2, season 3. We'll see. I mean, it's going to have to come around eventually, right? I don't think they're just going to skip that. Bem says, I don't see them managing both storylines, the sea and island. Not sure what you're referring to there, unless you're talking about when the group just goes out on the sea and goes to that pirate island, Dark Toe. I don't know. I think there's gonna be some stuff with that because I think it ties into Ford's story a lot. So I have the wrong city name. Oh, you know what? Now that you mentioned something, I have to keep the tarot card scene where Molly says that she already found her dad. Probably Bazozan. Yeah. So that is something that I'm really excited for. The whole Bazozan thing and going into those desecrated temples and the whole laughing hand thing. The whole dungeon crawl that they did there was incredible in the campaign. And so I hope so bad that we get that in all of its glory in the series. I loved that dungeon crawl so much. I was DMing for some friends. It was was it my first time DMing? Yeah, I think it was my first time DMing. I decided to just basically take that dungeon crawl and kind of use the same mechanics and just have the context be a little bit different. and have my friends do a dungeon crawl for that, and it was so much fun. I just love the mechanics of that crawl that Matt did, and that being in the series is something that I'm really hoping for, because it was an incredible dungeon crawl that they did. That should be season 4, right? Man, I hope they have 9 seasons. You know, I am really bad with like episode numbers of like when things happened. I'm pretty sure that happened in like, is that the 80s? I can't remember when exactly that happened, but 9 seasons probably won't happen, unfortunately. I mean, that'd be great. I would love that. Uh, I just don't know. Like, it just depends on how successful the show is, I guess. And also like uh, you know, where Travis and Sam think that, because I don't think that they would stretch the show out to where it's like, I feel like I trust them to make it to where it's the series itself is a length that works for the story that they're telling. And so I would feel like Sam and Travis would have a pretty good idea of like how many seasons they would need to tell the story in total. If they're telling the Vox Machina story in 5 seasons, then I would say they could probably tell the whole story of campaign 2 in, yeah, I think 7 seasons would make sense if they can get renewed for that amount. There's a whole thing with the Legend of Vox Machina. The whole reason why A Bard's Lament didn't happen at the end of season 3 is because they didn't know if they were going to have a season 4, and they didn't want the series to end on such a downer note as The Bard's Lament. So it's kind of like, if if Prime Video gives them the seasons that they need, I feel like the story's going to come out really well. I hope, I know we're talking about Mighty Nine right now, but I hope that we get the Bard's Lament at the beginning of season 4. If we can get the Bard's Lament at the end of season 4, at the beginning of season 4, as like a kind of like a flashback to the end of season 3, like that would be. Dream big, guys. Let's Chalamet this thing. It's the best thing around. I would just say, oh gosh, what's that actor's name? The Just Do It actor. Shia LaBeouf, right? Just do it. Also, Sam later on regretting how Bard's Lament happened. In character, he had Scanlan admit he was in the wrong. I mean, I guess, but like that's a human moment, Adam. Like what Sam did as Scanlan in that moment is a very human moment. So like, yes, the character itself can say that he regretted how it happened, but like storytelling wise, I don't think they regretted it at all. Like it was powerful. I watched Stranger Things already. I've seen the volume 2 of Stranger Things. I won't get into spoilers here because I don't know if everybody has had the opportunity to watch that like I have. I've watched episode 5, 6, and 7 earlier today. Or no, sorry, yesterday. Very good. Also powerful moments. Also, I would encourage anybody here not to spoil Stranger Things. This is a Mighty Nine spoilers talk, not a Stranger Things spoiler talk. But If you guys want to talk Stranger Things at some point, we can also do that later on down the line. We can have another stream, maybe after the finale. If people want to talk about Stranger Things with me, we can do that too. Not something that I'm reacting to on the channel, but I am watching it. Marty 9, says Bim. I have not seen Marty Supreme. I probably won't, if I'm being honest. I mean, Chalamet's okay. I'm not the biggest fan of Chalamet. I think being humble is a lost art. It's a characteristic that more people should have. I say as I patted myself on the back earlier about being right about my season 1 predictions for the Mighty Nine, but we're not all perfect. Who would you guys, if they have Lorenzo in season 3, who would you guys get to play him? Also, I think my mind was kind of blown because I think if I remember correctly, when I was doing my reaction, I saw the cast list for this first season, and I think they said that Liam McIntyre was playing Oban. Is that correct? I'll have to look at the IMDb. Because the name sounds familiar, but I don't know if it is who I thought it was. The next rifts, do you think they will happen at the same place as the campaign? Well, they've introduced one, right? But they didn't find any like evidence there of like somebody opening it, right? It was just a rift. So it's I'm kind of curious if they're even going to like introduce that part of it, like if they're going to have them find evidence that, you know, the whole thing with like the cloth of the cloak and like all that kind of thing, like that's a very much like a D&D sort of thing. So I wonder how else they would catch the person opening it. Who did Scar in the OG Lion King? That was Jeremy. Oh gosh, Jeremy Irons. I think Jeremy Irons was the guy who voiced Scar in the original Lion King. Also, I'm just looking at the IMDb right now. Nathan Fillion as the gentleman was like peak casting. So great. Yeah, Liam McIntyre is the voice of Oban. And that isn't who I thought it was. I thought there was like a voice actor from the UK who had the last name of McIntyre, but probably a different first name. Oh, but he was in Gears of War 4, so that's where they have the connection there with Laura. So that makes sense. Jeremy Irons as a Lorenzo. Yeah, Jeremy Irons is kind of old though, right? But he has a great voice. I mean, you can play whatever age you want as a voice. I remember they found one pursuing the succubus and incubus. Yeah, that was when they first got into. Was that the City of Beasts when they first went into the like the dynasty or the in the Jor house area? I think that's when they found the succubus and incubus. So that's possible. But there were three, right? There were three rifts that they saw. But I think they found the evidence of one during the succubus and incubus situation. See, that's the interesting thing about these series versus the campaign. Is like there's a lot of mechanical things that you do in a campaign that you don't necessarily like need to do in a live stream, and you don't necessarily have the time to do in a live stream. So like the succubus and incubus thing, I wouldn't be surprised if that was one of the things that that doesn't make the series. You know, just like one of the things that I loved from the campaign, one of the encounters I loved from the campaign was the encounter with the gnolls in the whatever town that was. Like that encounter with the gnolls going back into the mines and like all that kind of stuff. Like I love that encounter. I don't think that we're going to get that in the series though. They were told of some in the Empire and like 3 in the Dynasty. Okay. Oh man, I'm just thinking about like the Laughing Hand, all that stuff. Regular gnolls, regular gnolls. I think next season we will get the encounter with the goblins that Not shoots Caleb. When does Not shoot Caleb? I don't remember that. I mean, I definitely think that we're going to come into contact with a band of goblins at some point, right? It just makes sense to further Not's story. But there definitely is some distrust between Not and Caleb right now after the finale. Unfortunately, Bim, I'm not following in the book. In which book? Is it one of the prequels? Like one of the comic book prequels? I have it. Oh, yeah. Okay, now I remember. I got you now. No, you're all good, Ben. I'm also just very spotty on some of the details from the second campaign because I haven't watched it in a while, which is why I probably start watching it again at some point. I mean, heck, I was planning on being on stream for another hour. I could watch some of it now, really, if I wanted to. You rewatched up to episode 48. Nice. There's sometimes where I'll just like rewatch the opening to the campaign to watch the cast like introduce their characters because I just think it's so much fun. Mess people up and put Patrick Warburton as Lorenzo. I don't even know who that is, Purple. I started when it was announced the season was coming November 19th. Yeah, you know, I was familiar enough with the beginning of campaign 1 where I didn't really feel like I needed to rewatch it. Those details were pretty fresh for me. But honestly, after the events of the finale of this season, that's when the stuff starts to get kind of murky for me. Do you think we'll see some iteration of the Bad Luck Bandits? I really hope so. Like, you know, they're going for like the tone of this series is more serious than The Legend of Vox Machina, but they obviously have a little bit of like humor here and there with Jester and with Not. And so I think that it would make sense to see them at least twice. So many people thought he was voicing Pumat. He was the big dude in Emperor's New Groove. Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, I saw so many people who were reacting to the show thinking that it was that voice actor. Obviously, because they don't know that was the voice that Matt did in the campaign. So I can't really like fault them for thinking that. But honestly, I hope that they hold off until they do an animated show for campaign 3. And I hope that they bring him in to voice whatever that character's name was, who was in campaign 3, who had a similar voice. Lorenzo brings Avantika to the plot in the campaign. Do you think they will keep it like that? I mean, that would make sense. I don't remember how Lorenzo brings Avantika into the plot, but you know, I will admit, like the stuff with Ford at sea during the campaign is probably the bit of the campaign that I remember the least of, because I feel like that's the part of the campaign that I've only seen like once, and it wasn't and I didn't watch it the first time around when I watched the campaign, like because basically my backstory with Critical Role was I found it in 2018. When they were doing campaign 2, instead of starting with campaign 2, I went back and watched all of campaign 1 before watching campaign 2. And so there was some point after the beginning of campaign 2 where I was just trying to get caught up. So I was reading recaps and watching recaps instead of like actually like watching the episodes. And then like, you know, basically starting from where they currently were in the campaign. And then later on, I went back and watched that arc. And so, I am the least familiar with that part of the campaign. But like I said, if I do a rewatch, I'll be watching all of it. They found the document in Lorenzo's chambers. Okay. Yeah, I remember them finding a bunch of stuff in his chambers after that battle where they freed Ford and Jester. So. Oh, gotcha. So it was like a name drop. And then later they put the face to the name. Also, at some point, guys, I'll probably live stream some gameplay of Baldur's Gate 3. I've only ever played through Act 1 of that game, and I really want to play through the rest of the game. Also, during one of their patches, they released the Swashbuckling Rogue subclass, and that's like my favorite subclass from D&D. And so I want to play it at some point. So I might be doing that on the channel too. But I am also I'm trying to get up to the point where I can monetize the channel. Um, I had this channel monetized once before, way back in the day, when I was doing like movie talk shows and trailer reactions and stuff like that. And I haven't been quite on that stuff as much recently. I've mainly just been focusing on the Critical Role stuff, so The Legend of Vox Machina and Mighty Nein. But my goal is to kind of spend more time on this channel and doing more things that I'm just kind of passionate about, whether that be movies, TV shows, video games, that sort of thing. But, you know, some behind the scenes stuff for the first season of the Mighty Nein, you know, it takes me way longer than it should to edit videos. And so for the first season of the Mighty Nein, I decided to give it a shot of hiring an editor. And so I've been working with Praper to have them edit my reactions to save me like 3 or 4 hours of time, because that's how long it would take me to edit those reactions. And so I've been paying for that stuff out of pocket, and not cheap, but it's something that I decided that I wanted to do to be able to do these reactions, have fun with it, not have to like wear myself out by editing for 3 to 4 hours. So, yeah, hopefully I can get this channel monetized again for at least like super chats and memberships and stuff like that. Because they kind of have that separate now, right? There's different levels of monetization. So the first level is with super chats and memberships and stuff like that, and the second level of monetization is ads. So hopefully I can get there sooner rather than later, so I can continue to do this kind of stuff, because this is kind of just fun for me. It's really just a hobby. I have a full-time job, so this is something that I just want to do for fun and share my passion with you guys. What big events do you imagine being in the next season? Man, gotta think about what episodes we might see next season. Let's see here. So we went through episode 12 to 13, right? That's really a good question. Well, I think, yeah, it was the gentleman job that took them to Labenda, so I think that will definitely come into play in the next season. I think there's a very good chance that the whole Molly event also happens in season 2. So again, I'm gonna have to rewatch, because a lot of my knowledge of campaign 2 starts to get kind of fuzzy after the events of this season. Shaw says that he would conclude the season with them going to the Bright Queen, maybe. Yeah, man, I wish I was. When did that happen in the campaign? What episode did that happen? Because I feel like, yeah, that doesn't happen until. Shaw, I don't think that's going to happen until at least season 3 with how late that happens in the campaign. I think that that's not going to happen until season 3. Will Essek be tortured by Trent? Possibly. I don't think that Trent needs to torture him, though. I think that he can just manipulate and blackmail him. just how fast they moved season one, it feels like it. But yeah, you may be right. Well, Shaw, the thing is, I don't know that they really moved that fast with season one, right? So like season one was 8 episodes, and the events of the finale happened in episode 12 of campaign 2. Episode 12 or 13 of campaign 2. So honestly, like not that fast. And granted, like you know, 2 of those episodes were like pre-stream stuff, like session 0 stuff, but that, you know, still 6 episodes of like in campaign stuff, right? So 6 episodes in season 2 cover 12 episodes of campaign. So even by that math, I don't think that we're going to get far enough into the campaign during season 2 to get to that point. However, like they've have definitely talked about how they're changing stuff for the campaign from the campaign. And so they could rearrange things to where that event happens much sooner, right? It all just depends on the number of seasons that they think they can get from Amazon to make this show. You know, there's a lot of factors in there. So you could be right. It could be a season 2 finale thing. But I think it might be more likely, because I think that doesn't happen until like the 50s of campaign 2. So I think that's more likely that it happens in campaign 3. Yeah, I'm having the same struggle, Shaw. Like I don't have the best memory. And so, yeah, I haven't watched campaign 2 in a number of years as well. And so I'm just kind of going off of like, I pulled up the episode list of their playlist on YouTube, and they don't even get to Your House until 51. So I don't think that, you know, if we cover 12 episodes in season 1, I don't think that we're going to get to episode 51 by the end of season 2. Vox Machina covered a whole backstory antagonist. They didn't even defeat a big one. Just what? Just Oelia. Oh yeah, you're talking about like in the first 2 episodes of Vox Machina, they beat Bremscythe, which is true. That was also pre-stream stuff, so. Season 2 could end with Molly, but it could also happen midway. I don't know, you know, because like, yeah, it'll be curious to see where they get with that. It could end with Molly, if we're just going by the math of the campaign episodes versus series episodes. Wait, because that happened at a live show, right? Am I remembering correctly? No, that didn't happen at a live show. Never mind. That happened at the table. Could you imagine if that happened at a live show? God. That would be bad. I'll be honest, like for people who don't know about what happens to Molly, like the fact that they have built that character so well in the first season. Oof. They're setting us up for pain. It's the Chuckles I'm in danger meme. Sorry, it should have been the Briarwoods. The comparison with them defeating Delilah and Silas in season 1. Mighty Nein, they don't even fight any big antagonists. Yeah, but it's also a very different style campaign too, right? Like campaign 1 was very much like a pretty by the numbers hero journey, whereas campaign 2 is much more like open box. like a sandbox type of open campaign for them just to kind of like try different stuff. What major plot points happen that the show will hit between now and Molly? Well, I mean, the main one that I think of is like Jester and Ford getting kidnapped. So like, because that obviously leads to the whole Molly situation. So I think that will happen. I'm curious how they're going to handle that with Yasha, because was Yasha around? I know Ashley wasn't around when that happened, but I can't remember if they were piloting Yasha at the time. But it's like obviously the kidnapping is going to happen. I want to see Hupperduke so bad. Yes, we need a Hupperduke party for sure. No party like a Hupperduke party, you know? Trying to even remember where the Hupperduke party happened. Hupperduke! You know, guys, since I have this platform right now and I'm the only one talking, I'm going to go ahead and say something. I wrote an article a while back when Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves came out. And I had this thought that, like, you know, there was a whole like MCU, like there was the reign of the MCU where it was like at the top of its game in theaters for a really long time. And I had this theory before Honor Among Thieves came out that Dungeons and Dragons could get to that level where it reaches like, you know, it's something that's smaller, has a very like niche following like comic books did, and then turn into something like huge where it's approachable from a larger audience. But the one thing that I will say, the issue with my article that I wrote was that Dungeons and Dragons, while it does have some known characters, right? It's not something like comic books had, where it's like you have Iron Man and Thor and Hulk and Captain America, like all these like very specific characters that then movies can be created from. Really, like Dungeons and Dragons, it's like an open world that you can kind of use as like a filter over top of stories, which kind of means that like it works better in some ways. You're not beholden to anything, but however, there's no like iconic like name that you can really tie the IP to. But because of what Critical Role is doing with their campaigns, you start having characters that people can really like wrap their heads around and like root for. And so like I think there's a lot of potential with Critical Role. And I think that, you know, I think ideally, while they love their animated series, and I think that that's where they themselves are going to focus their efforts will be on animated stories. I think that there's potential for these characters to see bigger screens eventually. So that's my crackpot theory, or maybe it's just me wanting it to be. Manifestation. Calamity movie would be dope. They could also just do a Calamity animated movie. Like, you know, the deal that they signed with Amazon was like they get first look at any series or movie. Like that verbiage was in the contract. So like there are obviously thoughts of movies happening, right? Whether or not that does happen, we'll see, but like there is that potential. It like that first look deal on series and movies is in there. So they could definitely do it. I think before they do like a live action movie of Calamity, they would definitely do like an animated movie for sure. I think anything that's live action would probably have less to do with the original cast and be more like you know, new actors and stuff like that. Brennan Lee Mulligan for Lorenzo. He could do it, but it's not the name that I would have expected. You know, like they did oh man, what's the guy that voiced the guy that voiced Grog's uncle? Forget his name. But like I don't think he's gonna voice Lorenzo either. I just imagine somebody with like a gravelly, deep voice doing Lorenzo, but ooh, you know, speaking of Stranger Things, we need to get Vecna in here. Jamie Campbell Bower. We need to get him voicing somebody. Get his Vecna voice onto a character somewhere. Actually, you know what would be hilarious if we got Jamie Campbell Bower to play Vecna in The Legend of Vox Machina. That would be funny. I don't think that's going to happen, but it'd be funny. Do you think we'll get Kiri? I absolutely think we're getting Kiri. I think we've already seen her. I think we saw her at the circus. That's what I think. We saw a family of bird-like creatures, and they were not Aarakocra. They seemed like they were the type of bird creatures that mimic sounds and voices, right? And so I think, you know, ticket, need a ticket. I think that was Kiri. Bim says, I think that was Kiri too. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was. I don't know if that was in the cast in the credits or not, but I think that was Kiri. In my head canon, that was Kiri. That's what I think. I don't think that they showed those characters willy-nilly. I think they, you know, it's the same thing. It's the same thing like showing Ludinus, right? Ludinus has been in so many shots in this first season of The Mighty Nine to just introduce the character so people can get used to seeing him. So I think that, you know, we'll get him more down the road too, right? Which tells me that I think that they are already planning for a animated series for Campaign 3 once Vox Machina is concluded. Maximus Regal is voiced the child Isfura. Not sure who that is. I mean, the Isfura child, I don't know who that is. Like the consent sign in the grass. Did I miss that Easter egg, Bem? Rain Fantasy Gaming says, I don't think we see Kiri again, to be honest. Possibly not. It might have just been a little Easter egg. Carrie says not much happens between where they are now and what happens to Molly. You know, that's fairly possible that it happens. I mean, I think it will happen in season 2. How does season 2 end? What's your prediction? Well, we've kind of already ruled out. We've already ruled out the possibility of the beacon being handed over to the dynasty, just because I think that's. I mean, unless they heavily restructure the campaign, it could be the end of season 2, but like that doesn't happen until like in the 50s of campaign 2, right? So unless they heavily restructure the campaign, I don't know that that's going to happen. Though, you know, if there's not a lot that happens, if there's not a lot that happens in between where we are now and the whole thing with Molly, I mean, they might just skip over some episodes. At Puma, the little jar with consent, please, and it's just grass. Didn't you see that? I did not see that. I was too focused on the dust of deliciousness. I think season 2 ends with the wall of fire. That happens on a boat with Avantika. See, I'm going to keep going back to the fact that I need to rewatch campaign 2. Because I feel like I remember that happening later as well. So, like I did pretty good with predicting where season 1 was going to end, but I felt like that was pretty straightforward. I think after this, it's like it could really open up and they could really do anything in any order that they want at this point. Honestly, the whole thing is season 2 really could just be Jester and Ford get captured. They are tracking Lorenzo. The Molly event happens, and then they beat Lorenzo and get Ford and Jester back. And somewhere in there, they introduce Caduceus. That could be all of season 2. But as they've shown, like they will show different perspectives in these series. So like, yeah, Kinko was what I was thinking of. I couldn't think of the name, but thank you, Purple, for throwing it out there. But like, you know, we could still see like what's happening with our main characters while also getting some of the story with Trent and Essek happening at the same time. Brain Fantasy Gaming. My season 2 prediction is Gentleman sends them to Shady Creek. Molly dies either to Lorenzo or they change who kills Molly to either Vess or Oban. Episode 3. Get Caduceus in like episode 4. Then you have like 3 episodes for the Avantika arc to begin. That seems like a lot. They have to show Vess, right? Well, we saw her in this episode attack Molly. They obviously have what Vess wants, right? So I don't think that they are going to actually give it to Vess. They also need to meet Twiggy and get the Happy Fun Ball at some point in season 2. I could see them hide Vess for a bit now, though. Yeah, I don't think that they're going to, you know, I think, well, it depends on how much Molly remembers, right? If he remembers Vess attacking him, you know, he could say, hey, the woman who we're supposed to give this beacon to attacked me. We shouldn't give the beacon to her. So. Yeah, the Happy Fun Ball and the Dynasty stuff, I don't think happens until season 3 and later. Like the Happy Fun Ball, I don't even think they get to that stuff until after the Laughing Hand's already released, right? So it is crazy to think about, like in the campaign, it's like you had the beacon and the Happy Fun Ball like all happening at the same time. And so then to like a general audience, like the group having two like super powerful magical artifacts that are spherical in shape. I know that the dodecahedron isn't a sphere, but like, you know, it's rounded. So it's like they have the Happy Fun Ball and they have this other uh really powerful magic item. It's just like how many world altering items does this group gonna have? You think they cut Happy Fun Ball, to be honest? Maybe, but it's just so cool. I don't know. Because also like the Happy Fun Ball stuff, like there was like several sessions that had the Happy Fun Ball in it, right? So a whole lot of ball juggling going on. I agree. Like I said, I really just want the, as I said earlier, um, the dungeon crawl that they do in Bazozan, where they actually like unleash the Laughing Hand. Like I want to see that so bad. I'm so excited. I'm assuming that we get that since it's directly tied to the Laughing Hand, which is directly tied to Yasha. But I think that that's probably season 3 stuff. Again, a lot of the stuff that we're talking about is so like up in the air because we don't really know how many seasons they think they're going to get, right? It really comes down to that. Handing the beacon to the dynasty is so end of season 3 coded. True. Maybe they return the beacon before they get the Happy Fun Ball. Possibly. Remind me, did they go to the tunnels underneath Bazozan before or after they handed them the beacon? That was after, right? Because they were walking around the like the encampment at Bazozan, like after they had already gotten the Bright Queen's favor. Yeah, after. Yeah, so maybe I'm just kind of at a loss as to like what they do between now. Hmm. Yeah, so it seems like the main storylines that are happening between now and your house is like the Shady Creek Run stuff and then the stuff at sea, right? Yeah, I feel like season 2 has got to be the Lorenzo stuff and then season 3 has got to be, well, unless they could condense the Shady Creek Run and the stuff at sea. Like all of that could be season 2. No, I don't think it's going to take 8 episodes either, Rain. Yeah, they might condense season 2 to be Shady Creek and ocean stuff. That's why I think we start the pirate arc in season 2, end with a cliffhanger of the Wall of Fire, and then season 3 is the end of the pirate arc, the Felderwind stuff, and the Knot reveal, then tunnels to Dynasty. Yeah, that's a good call. I'm inclined to agree with you at this point because yeah, it is like there is the issue with some of the stuff that happens in the campaign is like the whole uh Laura and Travis leaving the show for a few weeks. Like if I remember correctly, like that came earlier than they expected, and so then I feel like they were kind of just, or because that happened, they were kind of like drawing out certain like aspects of the story, right? Because um they were basically like, okay, we'll do this until Laura and Travis get back, so then we can start the Ford storyline or the Ford backstory once they return to the table, right? And so the the Renzo Molly stuff might be a lot more short lived than it was in the campaign. Could be happen. It could happen in like the first couple episodes, right? And season 3 with giving the beacon. That's possible, which would mean not going into the Bazzoxan tunnels until season 4, which oh god, which means I gotta wait 3 years for that. Yes, it came earlier, but we completely skip Hupperduke and the Swamp Kiri in the animated. Well, when's the first time that they meet the hag in the swamp? Ford already has the orb, which was the main reason for the swamp arc. True. It's a good point. Carrie, I think end of season 2 is too soon to give the beacon over. They would have to skip all the Lorenzo stuff and all of the ocean stuff in order to get the beacon to the Bright Queen by the end of season 2. Yeah, it could happen if they completely restructure the campaign. It's possible. So if they restructure it, sure, it could happen at the end of season 2. If they don't do that major of a restructure, I think it's more of a season 3 thing. Who knows? The handing of the beacon might not even be a... I know that it's such a big moment that we kind of assume that it would be like an end of season cliffhanger type of thing. It could be like a mid-season type of cliffhanger. I could see them combine the two boat arcs. So like what they... Well, I mean, there's one boat arc where they go to like go to the island, right? But I think now that Ford has 2 orbs in his chest, I think we're going to get to that sooner rather than later. And I say that he has 2 orbs in his chest because I'm assuming, based on what the show showed us, that when Ford was originally saved, there was a circular yellow glow in his chest as Ukutoa is healing him, right? So my assumption is 1 orb gives him his powers, 2 orbs increases his powers to where we're at now. And so we're going to get the, forcing to look for the 3rd one sort of situation. But I could be wrong. This is all just speculation. Fun times for a Friday night, right? Yeah, I think this is kind of the excitement of television being released 1 episode a week. Like, they released the first 3 episodes up front, which I understood because it was like session 0 stuff into like the first main event, which was the circus. But then after that, it was like 1 episode a week. Whereas Legend of Vox Machina was 3 episodes every week, right? So I think the the format of the Mighty Nine is very much more in line with like premium television format. So much good source material. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like my comparison earlier to like comic book movies is like comic books for comic book movies is like there's so much source material in those comic books, right? Well, it's like, okay, well now, because they always make movie adaptations out of comic books, novels, like that sort of thing. And it's like, all right, think about like how long it takes you to like read a book, right? If you think about like, I'm just going to use an example, right, of like the Harry Potter books. So all 7 books is roughly 90 to 100 hours of reading time for about 4,200 pages. So 90 to 100 hours of reading time for a full series of books, right? Whereas one campaign of Critical Role is over 300 hours easy, right? So when you talk about, right, I'm just talking about the amount of source material to pull from, right? Obviously, they made the Harry Potter movies back in the day, right? They created 8 movies out of their 7 books. Obviously, they have enough source material, way more source material than some of the biggest movie franchises, right? So, like, they definitely have the source material to pull from to make a Purple got a work call. No worries. Take your work call. That comes first. When you have that sort of source material to pull from, right, you have the ability to create really good movies when you condense that sort of source material. And I think the issue that Dungeons and Dragons has as an IP is that they don't have any characters that have that kind of draw that people can like invest in. Whereas I think Critical Role is like they have characters, right? That's what they are known for, are their characters, their interpersonal drama and stuff like that. So I think that lends itself to really strong source material that can be adapted. And I think that's part of the reason why they are doing, obviously they have their campaigns, which you can look at the campaigns as like they are their own books essentially. And then they have their own books, they have comic books, all that kind of stuff. A lot of source material to pull from for movies. So that's why I think that there's a lot of potential for movie adaptation. Season 2, Episode 1, deal with the aftermath of Zadash's job. Introduce Yasha to the group and flee Zadash with the beacon as Caleb wants it for the time being. Oh, for the time travel to his backstory, and with Vest going underground. Gentleman has no one to sell it to. Episode 2, either Hupperduke or something to set up the Iron Shepherds kidnap Ford and Jester. Episode 3, Kill Molly. Episode 4, Molly funeral and aftermath chase Shepherds to Shady Creek. Introduce Caduceus. Seems a bit early to do one episode after death. Well, if you remember the campaign, they introduced Caduceus like, was it the next episode? Because, they still didn't, well, no, they had Ford and Jester back at that point. Was it like an episode or 2 after? I don't know. I think we're going to meet Caduceus fairly quickly. Well, point being, you say episode 4, Molly funeral. Who do you think they're going to do the funeral with? I think it's very likely that they could do the Molly funeral with Caduceus. Seeker Relics, what's up? You think it was 2 or 3 episodes after? Yeah, so 2 or 3 episodes in campaign can correlate to like an episode in series, if not less. Obviously, they did Molly's funeral on the side of the road. I understand all that, but I think they could probably find I think Caduceus will happen quickly after. I think there's some NPCs. Oh man, I'm forgetting the NPC that actually introduced Caduceus to the group. But I don't think we see her. I think we skip straight to Caduceus. I'm thinking more for emotional impact of it. They could also focus on Essek for an episode. That is true. Would we get a full Essek episode? And if so, what would it be? It's a good question. I mean, they could do an episode where Essek and Trent are hunting down the second beacon. That could be an episode. The Mother. Not sure what that's referring to, Ben. Bim. There's so much that they can do. Like, obviously, there's 141 episodes in Campaign 2. And so when you try to, like, math it out as to, like, how long you think Keg will be in the show. I agree. I also think Keg will be in the show. Carrie, I actually think that episode 2 is when Ford and Jester get kidnapped. And I think episode 3 might be where we lose Molly and they save Ford and Jester in episode 4. I think we're probably going to see Essek have a very bad time as a guest of the Empire, beginning the new direction of his arc. Bim says it's so heartfelt, the rescue of her son. She's in the same race as Caduceus. I don't know how to write that name. Yeah, I mean, I think unfortunately, there's just some guests that I don't know that we're going to see. You know, if they skip the Happy Fun Ball stuff, I don't know how they could skip the Happy Fun Ball stuff though, because I mean, it ties into like the time travel stuff. It ties into Yasha's story. Nyla, yeah. Nyla. It'd be like I would pay to be a fly on the wall of the writers' room to see like how they are structuring the show, right? Because I would imagine that, you know, you have like this whiteboard where it's like season 1, season 2, season 3, season 4, season 5, season 6, whatever the amount is like seasons that they're going to have, and they say Shikasa is another thing that we need to see, but I don't know that we're like. He was introduced like during like the Null attack, right? Which is like one of the things that I really wanted to see. I wanted to see that Null thing. So they might introduce Shikasa just in a different way. Kaliana won't be either. Yeah, I think that's the difficult thing with Campaign 2 is like it's so open world, right? That when it comes to adapting it for a show, everything has to be more focused. And that's one of the things that we were talking about with the changes from the campaign to the show for season 1 is in the campaign, the characters just stumbled on the beacon. They had no previous knowledge of the beacon before they stumbled onto it, right? But for the sake of the show, they focused it more. Dyron gave Bo a job and like they started to focus on going after the beacon. They knew of the beacon. They were going after the beacon, right? And they got the beacon. Like it was like a focused job to get it. Whereas in the campaign, they were just kind of doing their own thing and they kind of fell onto it, right? So I feel like there's a lot of that kind of stuff in the campaign where it was like they're just doing their own thing, going here, going there, adventuring, doing all that stuff, where I think the show is going to be more focused. And I think the downside to that is some of those NPCs that we saw as part of the going off and just doing random things is going to be more focused and trimmed. I think Critical Role probably has the desire to find ways to work those guest characters into the story that would make sense for the focused story that they're trying to tell. But I think that just the format of campaign 2 lent itself to have more guests in kind of random situations. We will definitely see a spurt cameo. It's just like there's no reason not to. He was there for a very short time, and it's going to be like a quick in and out. You know what I mean? Like that's definitely going to be happening when they go through the tunnels to get to the dynasty. Like that's just going to happen. Speaking of NPCs, the Iron Shepherds were supposed to be a long-standing antagonist group, but they got killed in Shady Creek. Yes. Matt did talk about how Lorenzo was supposed to get away, but the players didn't let him. And so they skipped most of the Vox Machina guest PCs too. What Vox Machina guest NPCs guest PCs did they skip? Oh, I guess like well, no, because like the Slayer's Take, like that was, I mean, there was some Slayer's Take guests that they did skip, but they kept Kara and Zara and Cash. I'm getting my names, the first letter of my names mixed up. I could see them change who kills Molly. Maybe. Yeah, it really just depends on how focused they want the story to be told, right? The NPC, I don't remember her name, but she was awesome. I hope they will bring her character. They all see emotion first, and that's what's emotional. Make it Oban, and he gets away. That brings Yasha into it properly. It's her fault that Molly dies. Wow, that'd be dark. Chris Perkins guessed that helped them kill Umbrasyl, and Patrick Rothfuss's paladin who coined I have passed through fire. Yep, you're right, Seeker. Yeah, I was really sad to see that Care was not in Vox Machina. I thought he was a really good guest character. And then Shale was Chris Perkins' guest character. That one I wasn't so upset about not seeing, but I was really upset that Care wasn't in there. It would make sense to have Oban take the place of Lorenzo, although they serve very different like functions, I guess. I mean, they could also just skip, I don't know. They could just skip Ford and Jester being kidnapped and just have the events of Molly's demise be different, right? They could just skip the kidnapping and just get rid of Lorenzo altogether. Because what role does Yasha even fulfill now? They built her up so much. Yeah, I mean, I think, well, this is the other thing is like, I think you would hope that Yasha and Molly build up some sort of relationship before, you know, Molly is no longer around, but if Molly passes in episode 2 or episode 3, then it's like, yeah, I mean, season 1 finale did hint at like Yasha, right? Like it was a big tease for like Yasha needs help. So it's like, how are they going to help her, right? So instead of Lorenzo being an issue, it could be that they have to fight Oban, and that's who kills Molly. That would make sense. Yeah, her introduction to the party is the cliffhanger. It is. Yeah, so I think we're definitely going to get a lot more Yasha in season 2. I would love to interview the cast, or even just like Travis and Sam. Obviously, they wouldn't answer any questions that are spoilers for season 2, but I would like to ask them like how much is being reconstructed for season 2. But also, I just kind of want to know like what their inspirations were for the season, for the series as a whole. With like the finale being like this big event that is going to change the story going forward. Since Iron Shepherds really aren't connected to any individual character's backstory. That's true. Again, they were just kind of like a vehicle to like keep having episodes, even though Laura and Travis weren't there. Iron Shepherds, Angels of Iron. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of like similarities there. It's kind of the same thing with the Beacon, right? It's like there's a lot of similarities between the Beacon and the Happy Fun Ball. I mean, on the surface, like obviously they are very functionally different, but lots of eyes. Eyes, eyes, eyes. Eyes, eyes. Guys, I've already been streaming for 2 hours. It's crazy. We miss all the cult decimations. I'm honestly surprised more reactors aren't trying to connect the Nonagon stuff with Ukatoa. You know, that's a good point because it is like a bunch of eyes all over the place. However, the eyes are like distinctly different, right? Yellow versus red. I think, you know, if we learn anything from like people who love to organize, like color coding things works like a charm, right? So red eyes versus yellow eyes, very different. The full Veth backstory episode in season 3 is going to hit like crack. Man, you know what? Like the one thing that we all know that we're going to get from Critical Role is like we're going to bawl our eyes out, right? We know that we're going to get some like backstory that's just going to break us, right? Like episode 5 with Caleb. Man, that was tough. Episode 5 was tough with Caleb's backstory. The stuff that we got with Essek and his mom when she turned herself in and he had to be the one with the knife. Like that hurt, like was so much for me personally. It's just a lot of trauma that Critical Role likes to put their fans through, you know? Not looking forward to Molly's departure or whatever the details they decide on. Yeah, it's they've done a really good job of building that character up, so it's going to hurt a lot more. Would I have seen those reactors connecting Molly Lucian to the beacon? Which makes me happy because that was one of the red herrings that Matt put in intentionally. Jester does need to get Sprinkle. We must have it. I demand. I guess the beacon red herring with Lucian isn't something that I picked up on in the campaign or in the show. Oh, I guess, yeah, with like I get it, with like the souls being reborn and put into a new body. Yeah, I get that red herring. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Just wait until they find out what what Molly actually is. Oh man. This show really could go on for 9 seasons if they wanted it to. 9. Towson thought that was it before they learned more about it. Yeah. There's a lot of like resurrection happening. There's a lot of eyes happening. There's a lot of like congruent things happening at once that are not connected, that are separate, but like they're kind of. It's like what is it that oh man, what they said about Star Wars, right? It's like poetry. It rhymes. Me and my friend mapped it out on a whiteboard, kind of like we've done here, and we got it to 9 seasons. It's still wild to me that we already know what Vess is up to this early. That might be the biggest departure to me. Yeah, the Vess being this early like really surprised me. I wonder if they get Molly history when they get to Shady Creek, if you've read the novel. I have not read the Molly novel, unfortunately. I mean, it makes sense that the Vess stuff is now, right? Like, it gives us more context for Molly. And I think that's the thing is like, they want to set up Molly before he dies so that when he comes back, they're like, oh yeah, that was the thing, right? My question is, how will they handle the revival of Molly, right? Like, are they going to let it be a surprise to the viewer? Or are we going to see him being revived before Mighty Nine knows about it? I would love if they don't, like, basically, if it's like they go back to Molly's grave, they see that he's not there, and then cut to Molly being alive elsewhere doing stuff. The Vess stuff was happening behind the scenes at this time. True, Carrie. However, like Molly and Vess didn't meet like on stream at this point, right? So I think that's what they're talking about. How Vess is like, it's happening more in perspective. Molly knows about Vess now, right? And Vess knows about Molly. So, ooh, I just remember from the campaign, the episode where they find Vess is dead. Oh God, so much good stuff. Okay, guys, it has been over 2 hours, so I think I'm going to wrap this stream up. We will need to have more streams where we can talk about all this goodness. At some point, I should probably also open up a server on Discord so that we can continue this conversation, although I like having these conversations on stream with you guys. So I do plan, we got plenty of time for the next season of Vox Machina and the next season of Mighty Nine, so we got plenty of time to talk about stuff. So I plan to do more streams, do maybe some Baldur's Gate 3 stuff, maybe do some Critical Role watch alongs, maybe. Yeah, so I got some plans. I'll probably be throwing up some polls into the feed as well on YouTube. So keep your eyes out for that. If you're on this stream, I would assume that you are subscribed to my channel, but if not, subscribe. Share with your friends that we have, this community that we're trying to build here of critters. Like I don't consider myself to be a real reactor. Like I don't really react to a lot of shows, right? If you look at my YouTube channel, you'll see reactions to Legend of Vox Machina and Mighty Nine, and I do that because I'm so passionate about Critical Roles and IP, and so I'm trying to get the word out there. So the more people know about this channel, the bigger my channel can get, the more people I can reach, and the more people we can bring into the fold of Critical Role, Mighty Nine, and the Legend of Vox Machina. So yeah, I appreciate everyone who showed up for the stream. I had a lot of fun talking to you guys. Like, subscribe, comment, all that fun stuff. And yeah, we'll continue the conversation. Keep a lookout for some polls and some other stuff. And if I create a Discord, I'll share that as well. So follow me on Instagram, Twitter if you have it, Blue Sky, Threads, Facebook, all the stuff. I'm all over the place. And yeah, you'll see my updates there. So thank you guys so much for joining me tonight. I hope you guys had a good night, and long may we reign.